the ways in which people remembered the past have changed quite markedly, and also who should be making decisions about how you remember the past and in what form. So that's the first thing. From the 1980s, around then, we've had a huge increase in remembering. Now, and also a society which has become more democratic and more involved in kind of publicly therapeutic kind of language and debates. Until the 1980s, most memorials were 19th century to great men. There's the odd one to cats or pigs or dogs, but from the 1980s, memorials started to become more democratic, and they also started to be made by people themselves rather than being set up by governments. So a really good example of this is the Granville train disaster. So they had no memorials to all the people who died in the Granville train disaster in the 70s. And but they had the people who were relatives of the people who died would throw roses on the track every February. And then this became a ritual that they did to remember what happened and to remember the people in a public sense, because it was an experience that a lot of people went through, not just one. And so what happened is that some of your politicians decided that they should get in on this act, and so they set up a memorial to the people who were victims of the train disaster, a formal memorial with all their names on it, right? And now every year a politician goes and has become part of the ceremony. So they still throw roses on the track every year, but it's now the government's involved as well. But a lot of memorials are not quite like that. They're often just a group of people who want to remember someone who's died. So they put up their own memorials. There was a bloke who fell off a bridge at the end of Balmain, and so all his schoolmates put their ties on the gates where he was last seen. So and they stay there. They're often forms of memorials, and people set up rituals to them, like the Bali bombings. There's now a whole lot of memorials in Australia to the Bali bombings, and even though it happened in Bali, and you know, you get a lot of people coming to those right around Australia. So there's now memorials for a whole range of kinds of deaths, and people are participating a great more. It's not necessarily something that the state or government sets up.